While the rest of the world remains enveloped in the soft embrace of slumber, a silent revolution occurs within the homes of the world's most influential figures. We often find ourselves enamored by the grand achievements of the elite, the billion-dollar acquisitions, the groundbreaking inventions, and the standing ovations, yet we rarely witness the quiet, disciplined hours that precede these moments of public glory. Success is not an accidental occurrence that strikes like lightning. Rather, it is a meticulously crafted outcome, forged in the stillness of the dawn. The morning is more than just a chronological beginning to a day, it is a psychological battleground where the trajectory of one's life is decided. In this deep exploration, we are not merely looking at a to-do list of early risers. We are deconstructing the philosophy of time management and the biological imperatives that make the first 60 minutes of the day the most critical period for human performance and cognitive clarity. To understand the morning routine of a high achiever, one must first understand the concept of the hour of power. This isn't about rushing to answer emails or reacting to the demands of others. It is about proactive internal cultivation. Most people wake up in a state of reaction, shocked by an alarm, immediately checking notifications, and allowing the digital world to dictate their emotional state before they have even brushed their teeth. In contrast, the successful individual views the morning as a sanctuary. It is a period of monastic silence where they can align their internal compass before facing the external chaos. By claiming the morning, you are essentially signaling to your subconscious that you are the architect of your reality, not a victim of your circumstances. This narrative shift from being a reactor to being a creator is the fundamental difference between those who drift through life and those who drive it. From a neurobiological perspective, the early hours of the morning offer a unique cognitive window that cannot be replicated at any other time of day. When we first emerge from sleep, our brains transition through different wave states, moving from delta and theta into alpha and eventually beta. In these early transitional moments, particularly in the alpha state, the brain is highly suggestive, creative, and capable of making complex lateral connections. This is why many of history's greatest thinkers reported having their most profound eureka moments shortly after waking. Furthermore, our willpower is a finite resource, much like a battery that depletes as the day progresses. Social scientists refer to this as ego depletion. By tackling the most demanding tasks and personal growth rituals in the morning, you are utilizing your willpower at its peak capacity, ensuring that your most important goals receive your highest quality energy. Beyond the brain waves, we must consider the endocrine system, specifically the cortisol awakening response, or CAR. Naturally, our bodies produce a spike in cortisol about 30 minutes after waking. While cortisol is often maligned as the stress hormone, in the context of the morning, it is actually our biological ignition switch. It prepares the body for action, increases alertness, and primes the motor cortex. Successful people synchronize their activities with this natural biological rhythm. They don't fight their biology, they leverage it. By hydrating immediately to flush out metabolic waste and seeking natural light to reset the circadian clock, they ensure that their internal machinery is humming in perfect harmony with the external world. This biological alignment creates a sense of effortless flow, reducing the friction that usually leads to procrastination and mental fatigue later in the afternoon. The architecture of a world-class morning routine generally rests upon three indestructible pillars: the spiritual, the physical, and the intellectual. The first pillar, mindfulness, is designed to anchor the soul. Whether it is through transcendental meditation, deep breathing exercises, or a structured gratitude practice, the goal is the same: to reduce the noise of the ego and foster a state of equanimity. When a CEO like Ray Dalio or a media mogul like Oprah Winfrey begins their day with silence, they are not wasting time, they are investing in emotional resilience. By practicing stillness, they develop a buffer between stimulus and response, allowing them to remain calm during high-stakes negotiations or unforeseen crises. This mental grounding prevents the day from running away from them, providing a sense of centeredness that persists even when the schedule becomes frantic. The second pillar is movement, but not necessarily the grueling, exhaustive workouts one might imagine. For the high achiever, morning exercise is about oxygenating the system and triggering the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. BDNF is often described as miracle grow for the brain, as it supports the survival of existing neurons and encourages the growth of new ones. Whether it's a brisk walk, a session of sun salutations, or a high intensity interval circuit, the objective is to stimulate blood flow to the prefrontal cortex. This physical activation shatters the brain fog that plagues most office workers and replaces it with a sharp, vibrant energy. When you move your body, you tell your nervous system that it is time to perform, effectively switching on the systems required for high-level problem solving and creative endurance. The third pillar is intellectual priming, or the learning hour. Successful people are obsessive learners, and they recognize that if they don't schedule time for growth, it will never happen. This is the time spent reading a demanding nonfiction book, listening to an educational podcast, or journaling. Journaling in particular serves as a form of mental housekeeping. By externalizing their thoughts onto paper, they can identify patterns of self-sabotage, clarify their long-term vision, and prioritize their values. This intellectual priming ensures that they enter the world not just with energy, but with a refined strategy. They aren't just working hard. They are working with a profound sense of purpose and direction. Having fed their minds with the wisdom of mentors and the clarity of self-reflection before the first meeting of the day even begins. Once the internal self is primed, the focus shifts to deep work, a term popularized by Cal Newport. This is the stage where the most successful individuals separate themselves from the mediocre. Instead of checking emails, which is essentially a collection of other people's priorities, they dedicate the first 2 to 4 hours of their workday to their most important task, MIT. This follows the eat the frog principle attributed to Mark Twain. If you have to eat a live frog, do it first thing in the morning and nothing worse will happen to you the rest of the day. For a writer, this is the time for prose. For a coder, it is the time for complex logic. For an entrepreneur, it is the time for strategic planning. By doing the hardest, most cognitively demanding work first, they ensure that the project that will actually move the needle of their career gets done before the inevitable distractions of the afternoon arrive. This period of deep work requires a ruthless elimination of distractions. The smartphone is often kept in another room, notifications are silenced, and deep work zones are established. In our modern economy, the ability to concentrate on a difficult task without distraction is becoming increasingly rare and therefore increasingly valuable. Those who master the morning deep work session are able to produce in a few hours what takes others an entire week of fragmented effort. This efficiency creates a compound effect over time. If you spend 2 hours every morning on a high-value skill, in a year, you have invested over 700 hours into your craft. That is the difference between being an amateur and being a world-class expert. It is not about talent, it is about the structural integrity of your morning schedule and your willingness to protect your cognitive resources from the shallow work of modern life. To ground these theories in reality, we need only look at the diverse routines of the world's elite. Consider Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, who famously begins his day at 3:45 a.m. His routine isn't about bragging rights, it's about gaining a competitive edge by clearing his inbox and reviewing global operations before the East Coast even wakes up. This gives him a head start on the world, allowing him to be proactive rather than reactive. Then there is Benjamin Franklin, who asked himself every morning, "What good shall I do this day?" His routine was built on a foundation of moral inquiry and structured time blocks, proving that the desire for morning discipline is a timeless human endeavor. Even in the creative arts, we see figures like Haruki Murakami, who wakes at 4 a.m. to write for several hours, citing the repetition itself as a form of mesmerism that allows him to reach a deeper state of creativity. In the world of finance, we see the likes of Howard Schultz, who uses his early hours for exercise and time with his family, recognizing that success is hollow if it comes at the expense of one's physical health or personal relationships. The common thread among these vastly different individuals is not the specific time they wake up, but the fact that they have a system. They do not leave their mornings to chance. They understand that a disorganized morning leads to a chaotic day, and a chaotic day leads to a mediocre life. By studying these icons, we see that the morning routine is a form of self-respect. It is an acknowledgement that your time is your most precious asset and that how you spend its opening moments will inevitably dictate the quality of your legacy. If you are currently struggling with a disorganized morning, the path to transformation begins with habit stacking. You don't need to wake up at 4 a.m. tomorrow to be successful. In fact, radical changes often lead to rapid burnout. Instead, start by identifying your current anchor habits, things you already do, like brushing your teeth or making coffee, and stack a new positive habit on top of them. For instance, after I pour my first cup of coffee, I will write down 3 things I am grateful for. By leveraging existing neural pathways, you make the adoption of new behaviors much easier for the brain. The goal is to create a frictionless environment. If you want to exercise, lay out your gym clothes the night before. If you want to journal, place your notebook on your pillow. The more you reduce the activation energy required to start a habit, the more likely you are to stick with it. It is also crucial to recognize the evening pre-flight. A successful morning actually begins the night before. If you stay up late scrolling through social media, the blue light will suppress your melatonin production, ensuring that even if you wake up early, you will be cognitively impaired by sleep deprivation. Success involves making a trade-off, sacrificing the cheap dopamine of late-night entertainment for the high-value fulfillment of morning productivity. This requires a digital sunset, turning off electronics at least an hour before bed, and using that time for light reading or reflection. When you go to sleep with a clear mind and a plan for the following day, you wake up with a sense of cognitive ease, ready to execute your routine without the decision fatigue of wondering what to do first. In conclusion, the morning routine of the successful is not a magic bullet, but a master key. It is the key that unlocks the door to your highest potential. It is about reclaiming your sovereignty in a world that is constantly trying to steal your attention. When you commit to a morning practice, whether it lasts 20 minutes or 3 hours, you are engaging in a form of intentional living. You are deciding that your goals, your health, and your peace of mind are worth more than the fleeting distractions of the digital age. Over days, weeks, and years, these small discipline actions compound. The extra hour of reading, the 20 minutes of meditation, and the focused deep work session accumulate into a massive advantage that eventually manifests as overnight success to the outside observer. But you will know the truth. You will know that your success was built in the dark, in the quiet, and in the cold. It was built when no one was watching and when it would have been much easier to stay under the covers. The alchemy of the dawn is the process of turning the lead of your potential into the gold of your reality. It is a daily invitation to start over, to be better, and to move one step closer to the person you are meant to become. So as you look toward tomorrow, don't just set an alarm, set an intention. Decide now that the first hour of your day belongs to you. Protect it, cherish it, and use it to build a life that you are proud of. The sun will rise whether you are ready or not. The question is, will you be standing there to meet it, or will you be left behind in the shadows of what could have been?